Watcher.
Don't watcher. I'm a YouTube person.
Oh, right, fair enough.
He's our only fan.
So all that confusion of which side is when you're looking at the screen. So I'm going to come down here and go, I'm Vince Maple, leader of Medway Council.
Welcome to the Cherrywood Podcast with me, Simon Burridge.
And me, Rachel Burridge.
Vince, thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure.
Vince Maple, Medway Council. You can tell us a bit more about yourself in a second, but you know what we're going to ask because you're an avid listener and watcher apparently.
I think you're going to tell us about the sponsors first, and then you're going to ask me about...
No, I asked you that first.
And then sponsors.
Then we go sponsors, and then the timer starts when we get back.
That's okay. So I had two answers. I said it's either going to stay up all the way through because I'm a confident sort of person, or if I'm going to give you a number, it'll be 33.
Okay.
Well, I would go 33. I don't think it's going to stay up.
So yeah, 33 minutes.
I think it's only stayed up possibly twice. Once in our home because you stuck it to the wall and it literally was like super glue and he peeled the wallpaper off afterwards. Yeah. And then once in the studio only because you triple taped it and double taped it and everything like that. So yeah, I'd go for 33.
Brilliant. So we're going to go to our sponsors and we want to thank Vince because the Medway Council is going to be sponsoring us soon. He doesn't know.
Blimey. There we go. Give him the wallet out.
So we just go to our sponsors.
Today's sponsors are Medici Associates, Chartered Structural and Civil Engineers.
Based in the UK with a worldwide reach.
Visit their website on demediciassociates.com.
Club Awesome, for autistic children and their families, a place where everyone belongs and fun knows no age limit. And we're back. There we go. Vince.
Great sponsors.
They were. What one was your favourite?
The second one. Very good. This is probably people who are in dispute with the council. So I don't actually know who they are for the voice. If they're good local people, we love them. And you do generally have good local businesses. So
we do. We try to have a lot of local businesses, and they all seem to come from Bromley Bexley way when they were born and come down into which is really weird.
So we're doing something right.
So you sort of know the rules. We're trying not to be too political on it.
That's it. It's when people invite me onto stuff and go, yeah, this is the thing, but we don't talk about politics. It's like, well, yeah, I've got about 3 minutes of life, and then see you later. That's fine.
So we'll try our best.
Yeah.
But tell us about yourself and how you became the leader of Medway Council.
So Medway's my home. I wasn't born here, so people go, you're born and bred in Medway? No.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Bexley, Bromley?
Islington, further up north.
Oh, right, okay.
Further up north.
Yeah.
The wrong side of the river, as I know some people would say. So that's why I support the mighty Arsenal, the world's greatest red team. But moved here when I was very small. My dad served in the Royal Navy.
Oh, okay.
So was posted to Chatham. We ended up in some of the naval properties in what is now Lordswood, effectively, and then moved to Luton Road. So I spent most of my years growing up on Luton Road. I'm really proud of it. It's got a bad reputation.
Blimey. And you're still here.
I love it. It's a great place.
You're still there now?
I'm about 400 metres away from it now.
Right, okay.
So, yeah, lived here pretty much all of my life since. My mum said, when we moved here, we're not going to move again. And I took her quite literally. So, hooray for my mum and dad. They're great people. They were great people. And then, so I went to school here, Luton Junior School and Infant School. Went to the Howard School in Raynham.
That's next to mine. I
There
went
you
to the
go.
girls' school.
Raynham School for Girls. Fantastic. Two great schools still. We did a big thing recently where myself and the chief executive have a question time event. And we did the first one at the Howard School because he went there as well. So. Yeah, love school. I didn't go to university. Went to work. So I worked for the DWP as it is now. So the Department of Work and Pensions, Crown House, the benefits office there.
Yeah.
I was the most popular man in Chatham when I first started working there because I was the man giving out the gyros. Yeah. For those young people, gyros were what is now a kind of automatic prepaid card. But it was a cheque. It was an old-fashioned cheque. Then worked for the Home Office in the Passport Service, worked for the GMB Union, looking after thousands of people. So kind of all of my life has been a bit kind of serving. So whether it's serving the public, serving members. And then when I was 9 years old, I first stood for the Labour Party at Luton Junior School.
Okay.
So that was back in 1987. So that tells you how old.
Would you say?
9.
Aw.
What was that, 87?
87, so you can do the maths. And
Right, okay.
I had one policy, which was there were too many cars on Luton Road. So we should have more buses and less cars.
Okay.
And like nearly 40 years on, I'm still saying too many cars on Luton Road, we need more buses and less cars. I came third in that election as well, the Labour Party back in 1987. Of course, like lots of schools probably did recently, had like a mock election when there was a general election going on. So yeah, Labour came third in Luton, which was probably my worst ever election result. I then joined the Labour Party proper. So in the run up to the 97 election, they did something called the Rolling Rose Roadshow, which is quite difficult to say.
Yeah.
And it came to what was then the Central Hall, now the Central Theatre in Chatham. And my mum was a Labour Party member. Dad, being in the Royal Navy, wasn't really political at that time. And it was really inspiring. So John Shaw, the former council leader, this was before Medway Council existed back in those days. So we had him there. We had John Prescott there. He's a guy who can inspire you to do stuff. And it was a night of comedy and politics and all that. So I joined at that point. My membership lapsed, not for any big political reason, but that was back in the day where we didn't really have direct debits. So I just forgot to pay my pound.
Oh, right, okay.
And then I rejoined actually in the Iraq War. So when everybody else was leaving the Labour Party because they were angry about it, I was angry about it.
So what we're talking, 90s, 99?
Yeah, so that was 2002, 2003.
Oh, right. So I'm talking about the one before then, am I?
You're talking about the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I left for a short period of time because I just forgot to renew it. I then renewed it because of I was angry about the Iraq War, and I was like, well, I need to be in the Labour Party to argue about this. Yeah. So rejoined then. As is often the case, a new young person, excellent, we'll give you a job to do. Thank you very much. So I ended up, I think, within 2 meetings being the secretary for the party in Chatham and Aylesford, as it was.
You were clearly too keen then.
Yeah, well, that or everybody else was like, blimey, there's someone who's like paying a bit of attention. And then I had the real privilege to be the election agent for Jonathan Shaw, who was the MP from 97 to 2010. In election agent terms, I won one and lost one, so that was okay. And then someone said to me, have you thought about standing for council? So I thought, well, that sounds interesting. So I put myself forward, again, for where I live. It's not, you don't have to. You can stand, as long as you live or work in Medway, you can stand anywhere. But I've always represented where I live and got elected in 2007.
Wow, and you've been there ever since?
I've been there. They found no one better. So, as I said to someone the other day, I'm on a kind of 17-year work experience. So far, so good. But yeah, and then obviously last year we had that dramatic election result, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more.
So, what is the role exactly?
Yeah.
Well,
because you always call you leader of the council, but what is it you have to
what does that
actually
mean?
do? I'm not asking this for the viewers. I'm asking it for myself.
No. So as is often the case, so we thought because of where we were in the election and all the rest of it, the Labour Party does some training to support you if it looks like you're going to win the council. And that's by an organisation called Local Government Association. And I remember hearing from a guy who'd been leader of council like 30 years ago. And he said on like week 1, we had no idea what to do. So it's like, well, we need to make sure we're not in that position. So technically I've got a strategic overview for the council. I don't kind of do any physical operation. I don't manage anything per se in the sense of staffing. I work closely with the chief executive. We're kind of a leadership double act. So I've got my cabinet of 10, similar to obviously national government, where you've got people with specific portfolios. My portfolio is finance, so I manage the money.
Yeah,
£580 million a year.
Right,
quite a lot. Still not enough.
Still not enough. Is
Still
it?
not enough. No. And again, we might talk a little bit about that. And then the chief executive's got his team of 15. So we have something called the team of 25, which is the political leaders and also the kind of senior officers.
Do you have say of who is on your team? Do you sort of have the final say of who you want?
So for the cabinet, I have ultimate say. Now, I work incredibly, and some leaders, it is them and only them. Now, I have a very close working relationship with my deputy, Theresa Murray. So we're a team. We got elected as leader of the opposition together 12 years ago now. 11 of which, of course, we've been opposition leaders, 1 year of which we've been in charge. So we work very closely. We are team. But technically, the Constitution says the leader, and I hate being called the leader, but it's the job title.
He says with a big smile on his face for everyone just listening.
Yeah. I do. I don't want to sound like the Tony Blair, but I'm like, call me Vince. My name is Vince. But like the Constitution says, the leader of the council selects the cabinet. So we've just gone through, as we're having this conversation this week, I've had to change 3 of my cabinet members this week because 3 of them got elected to Parliament. Hooray for them. So I've got that. I think part of the role as council leader is being champion for Medway. Medway gets a bad deal, gets a raw deal in all sorts of situations and terms. So I will always stick up for Medway. It's not perfect. Nowhere is perfect.
No.
But if you go onto social media, there you go.
It's 50% of it's
There we go.
So what is that? I don't think that's ever happened.
Let's see.
I've just broken the front of it.
I think we've had it once before, but you can carry on with your 33 minutes.
There we go. We're on. So it might.
It's lighter now, so it might not fall off the wall.
This is the equivalent of a penalty shootout now, I think, probably. So I just changed my cabinet, which I wasn't planning to do, but the general election meant I had to, really. But yeah, I'll be the champion for Medway. So, say, Medway gets a raw deal. When you've got national newspapers, particularly having a go at Chatham and Gillingham and indeed Luton Road, you know, when we do amazing stuff, there's amazing community groups like Arches Local who do fantastic stuff in the Luton area. When was the last time the Sun put that on their website? Never. And actually, that's part of the reason I love your podcast, because you've got some, stories that aren't told by anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, people probably hear too much from me, most people would say, but for lots of other people you talk to, again, it's that opportunity. And I think the new technologies we have kind of democratizes communication in a really positive way.
Well, that's it, because, you're getting a story from real people rather than, manufactured. And, what it's
Press
like.
releases.
Yeah,
Well,
press releases. And it's always swayed on what they're, what side they're on.
Bad news always sells better, doesn't it? So,
That,
of course,
unfortunately,
they're
and we
going to
just-
pinpoint the bad out of Medway instead of, look what they're doing now. And that's a horrible way to be, but that's just the way of the world, isn't it?
And I love the local. We're lucky to still have a local paper in Medway, the Medway Messenger. And I'm a big supporter of local papers. When I used to do the trade union role that took me around the country, one of the first things I'd always do when I went to a new place was get the local paper, because you get a feel for what's going on. But we used pre-COVID, we used to kind of buy the newspaper every week and we'd have it in the office. And one day somebody just sat there and went through all the front pages and went, blimey, this is the most miserable place in the world.
It's turning into that now, isn't it?
Because you're right.
It's selling the story.
Yeah. It's people need to catch the eye. So again, this week, I would say this, it's got an amazingly positive front page. But most weeks, it is about those difficult challenges, including holding the council to account. That's part of their job, and I think that's a good thing. The journalists of this world who are doing their job properly, they're under-resourced, so I don't ever have a downer on journalists. They don't have enough resource to do their job properly. But, their job is to hold people like me to account. But, front pages of the Messenger, who I love dearly. Yeah, if you get 20 of them together, it can feel a bit of a kind of you're not going to be feeling happy at the end of that necessarily.
No. Go on.
Oh,
right. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say, how do you, when you do face challenges, you've got a lot on your plate. How do you deal with that? Is it sort of like your onion layers, as I call it? Sort of the first time hurts, and then you build up your onion layers, and by the end of it, you get a bit more tougher.
You're being personally attacked for potholes.
Yeah. So look, there's a couple of. I have literally got broad shoulders, as you can see. Or you can't see if you're listening to this on the podcast. I have got broad shoulders. And I know 98% of stuff. And I had it in opposition as well. We were pretty high profile as an opposition, so people will have a go. Most people having a go at me don't know me, don't know me as an individual. I would hope that most people who know me personally would say that I'm approachable, I'm honest, I'm transparent. If things aren't going well, I will be open and honest about that. But yeah, particularly in the world of social media, and I mentioned the Messenger. The Kent Messenger Online has the bottom, so comments, and they're effectively unfiltered.
Yep.
So they can be pretty harsh at points. Yeah. They're funny too. Some people are funny. So my favourite, I tell the story a lot. My favourite situation was we had a power cut for 4 days in Wayfield, just over the other side of Chatham. And we found out whilst we were having a cabinet meeting. So me and Simon Curry went over, see how people were. Great partnership working, the council working with other providers, UK Power Network. And I spoke to some residents, everyone was doing well. And then the paper covered that on the website. And then somebody put on the bottom half of the internet, imagine the scene, your telly's come off, your food's defrosting, then Vince Maple turns up at your door. And you kind of go, look, that's quite funny, actually. Yeah. But yeah, so it's for me, it's not for me, it's for everybody else. So I have 2 or 3 really close friends who will try and bat everything away on social media. They're not hugely political.
Defend you.
Yeah, just because they're like, you don't know him, what you're talking about. And look, some of them are not Labour supporters at all, but they're like, you're trying to do your best.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. And
I appreciate, sometimes I say to one of them in particular, I say, look, just have the weekend off. Look, people can say horrible things, that's okay. People say nice things too. Yeah. And actually, some of those horrible things, I do get it. People get frustrated. We had, you mentioned potholes. The roads in Medway are not good enough. And there's probably most council leaders who are responsible for roads will say at the moment, the roads here are not good enough. Now, we could get into a debate as to funding and all of that, but actually, in one sense, accept that things need to be better, which is why, in that case, we wrote to government and said we need some more money to sort out our roads. But look, 99% of people's criticisms, maybe not pleasant and sometimes personal, but actually most of them are fairly grounded
and genuine.
And look, and we had a situation where somebody wrote to me about, so we were increasing some parking charges, and he said this is going to have a huge impact. So I said, well, let's have a chat, let's have a Teams, let's get together. And he said, look, I don't agree with you, but I understand and I appreciate you taking the time to have that conversation. For me, I knew that we'd have to take some difficult decisions for reasons that, again, appreciating this is not an overly political podcast, there are reasons we've had to take difficult decisions. And actually, the majority of residents understand that. They may not like everything we're doing because we're having to take those decisions. Good example of that was the Christmas lights. So I didn't want to end up on this morning being talked about with Christmas lights going. But the Messenger website did a poll along with the story saying, was this the right decision of the council to cut Christmas lights? The majority of people who voted on that said, yes, actually, yes, that was the right decision to take. So actually, although a difficult decision, I don't want to be the guy who's stopping the council providing Christmas lights. And we had great businesses step in again.
That's right. This is more of the Rochester High Street than anything, wasn't it?
So it was all 5 town centres. Yeah. Right. And we ended up with 3 businesses stepping in to support them, and then Rochester Town Centre Forum did something on top, which is great, community.
Well, I don't see a problem with businesses jumping in and having a little bit of sponsorship next to it. Do you?
No, and
did they do that? Did they sponsor a little bit?
So we had all of the lights and more in one case.
Yeah.
And then people were saying, there were then other people going, well, why was the council ever paying for this to begin with? And you kind of go, lots of councils stopped doing that a number of years ago. So there will be more difficult decisions. That's the reality.
Actually, there is another decision we can blame you for, Vince. Isn't there?
We don't remember.
No, but he knows I'm only winding him. Isn't one of the festivals being cancelled? One of the sweeps or something like that?
No. Let's talk about that. So
is it your fault?
No. When it's going badly, it's always my fault. When we're going well, it's the team's success. I'm clear on that. So yeah, we've still got a tremendous program of events and festivals across Medway. What we have done is we've taken the Dickens Festival from 2 events to 1. So we used to have summer and Christmas, and now we've only got Christmas. And actually, the numbers, and there's some traders who said actually that makes sense. The Christmas one does good numbers. I guess Charles Dickens didn't write a summer carol. Yes. He did write a Christmas carol. Yeah. That's a choice that we've had to take. But we've ensured that there continues to be a good level of events. And again, another one, just while we're talking about the tough choices in year 1, we've cut back on some free swimming. We've increased the number of other provisions available. And by the time people probably see this, we will have our new swimming pool opening in Rainham.
Yes.
So Cossington Park Sports Centre, which despite that new name, I would guess about 99% of people will call it Splashes still.
Yes, yeah.
That's fine. The same that for those who've been here around some time, Medway Park is still the Black Lion.
Yes,
that's fine too. I'm not precious about that.
One of the things we've done recently is have the family package, 2 adults, 2 kids, for £80 a month. All three centres.
Yeah.
Unbelievable price.
And into Cosington Park when it's open.
Very, very good. Very pleased with that.
We were just, even the kids now say, can we go and play badminton? Can we go and do this? And they love it. And my daughter can't wait till she's 14 because then she can actually use the gym herself because she said, I'd love to go with you to the gym. And so we just push it all the time.
And it's not taking anything away from the gym we was in. We was in a 24-hour gym in Strood, which was lovely. Everyone was fine there. But, for a family thing for £80 a month, and then I like a bit of badminton these days. So, perfect.
It's good. It's good. And actually, that news facility at Cosington, I don't know if you've been around it.
No, haven't. No. There was an open day for the members, wasn't there?
It's next week, I think.
Well, it isn't now. Yeah. It's next week and 2 months.
It was sometimes. It was great.
It was a really good open day.
The weather was beautiful. That's something I should never promise.
Yeah.
But we got as we're recording this, we got the opening next week, and I've had the privilege to have a look around. It looks fantastic. BBC Radio Kent, one of their journalists took a camera down the flume.
Oh yeah.
And it's on social media. It looks phenomenal. So families will love it. And that's right. I would recommend, if you're going to use it more than once a month, sign up for a pass. Definitely. It's good value if you're using it. If you're going for a one-off, actually it's still comparative with going to the ice rink or going bowling. But if you're using it more than once or using different sites, I know different people.
I've never been to that leisure centre in my life.
You will do.
You stopped off to have a wee once when we were training.
I'm from Northfleet. I was born in Northfleet area, so we've been here nearly
Cascades.
10 years, haven't we?
Cascades.
So
Fantasies. Do you remember Fantasies?
Was that the one that subsided?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that was really good for flumes.
Yeah.
It didn't last long though.
No. I think.
So what's this got flume wise? Just a one?
I think it's one that.
It's one, but it's a big but safe for younger people.
Yeah.
Now, has that always been there, or is that a new?
No, it used to always be there.
The whole thing is it's better than the old one. But the whole thing was knocked down. The whole building, everything. So it's a brand new building.
Yeah.
Really sustainable.
And it's the running track place, isn't it?
No, that's Black Lion.
That's
Medway Park. Sorry.
I'm terrible for this.
Yeah.
So is it next door to it?
No. So this is near Howard School. School.
You've got to forgive me, everyone listening who's from Medway, because I really don't know that area at all.
So you know where the football is it soccer? Well, what's the football?
Yes,
pitches?
I do. On the corner.
Soccer pitches, and then
Opposite
across
there.
the road.
Oh right, okay. So it's miles away from where I'm saying.
Do you remember when we did that?
Yes, we did a walk.
When they did that walk, and we went through, and we were going to walk down the A2 to
we did London to Brighton once, so we walked all around the area.
Yeah, so we literally walked from Gravesend to Sittingbourne.
No, we walked it. Walked London to Brighton.
Wow.
We didn't ride it. Yeah.
So
it
was hard.
100k.
How are your feet?
Oh, my knee. It's my knee.
It was hard.
Yeah.
One of my friends, Ben Pransky, did that for I think British Heart Foundation, and he was exhausted. So well done for doing that.
Well, some of us did London to Brighton. Some of us did the 80k London to Weaversfield, which is where she passed out. But I made her a T-shirt.
London to
Weaversfield challenge on it.
That's unique. That's unique.
But it was like the end of Platoon. She was like, "Go without me."
They were massaging me. I was like, ah.
And then eventually I got there and you were crying at the end.
I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But anyway, going back to our story, we stopped there because
yes.
we moved away.
Okay.
So we have been in there once.
I'm pleased that the facilities were, but they're new facilities now.
Yeah.
They're new facilities.
Brilliant.
But
okay.
I used to go there
we
all the
definitely
time.
try them because we've got the right age kids for that, haven't we? So brilliant.
But we love the facilities that all the sports centres in Medway have, and even to my parents because they live in Sittingbourne, and we've said to them, if you ever move up this way, just join because you have so many facilities available in one centre, and if you're not there, you can go to other centres as well, and it's just amazing. We were really, really impressed with how they do it.
I've said this a few times. Like I say, I'm from Northfleet. I've lived in Kings Hill. I've lived in different places around Kent, and I always use Strood as a road to go through to get to somewhere else like Rochester or something like that, I used to just drive through Strood. But since I've lived here, I love it here. Love it here. And we tend to use the Strood Sports Centre.
Yeah.
And then I'll go for a swim and I'll go in the sauna and everything. And the people there are just so nice, chatty and lovely, honestly. Yeah. Really nice people.
Dedicated staff. And actually, I think, so that's a good example of actually the Medway towns as a whole. People talk a lot about Chatham, Gillingham, Rochester. I think Rainham and Strood don't get a raw deal in the sense of, they're both doing well, but we need to talk about them a bit more.
They're just a little bit on the outskirts,
they're on the edge.
aren't they? Yeah, so they get forgotten.
There are definitely some people that will look from Strood towards Gravesend. There'll definitely be some people who live at the end of Rainham who might look to Sittingbourne, and that's perfectly fine. All the villages, Upchurch and Borden and all of those. And that's perfect. The nature of Medway means that we haven't got one single place. People, and you can be from more than one place. You can be proud of Strood, but you can be proud of Medway as well. That's okay.
No, I am, because the days I used to come into Strood was for Charlie Brown's. Do you remember Charlie Brown's?
Blimey.
It was a car place. It was like a huge sort of Halfords. Halfords times 10, yeah. It was a massive place. And that's really the only time I needed to go into Strood. So I used to drive through the main road. But I can honestly say the improvements being made are noticeable in Strood.
Yeah, and I think there's more to be done on that. And again, we've got... so our former portfolio holder for improving the high streets is Lauren Edwards, who's just got elected as the MP for Rochester and Strood. So she's put in place some really good work. One of the things, particularly for Strood and to a lesser degree Rochester, people say they miss the market. So Strood used to have quite a big market here. So we're looking at a market strategy which is fit for purpose for...
Now, where would that have been, in that small car park?
So, the car park next to what is now McDonald's.
Yes, yes, I know the one. The one that the paying one.
And the Rochester one used to be in the place which is effectively now the
station.
Car park for the station. So, I think we're going to be looking at that. Gillingham's still got a market, but actually, I think we're going to be certainly making some good progress on that, because it's something which we've seen other places doing really, really well.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't know if that was something that was slowly diminishing, because the sad thing about all high streets and that is you've just got the usual shops now, haven't you? You've got hairdressers, nails, very rarely have a bank in there now, Is there any movement to try and get some more businesses into the high streets?
So definitely. So on banking, I mean, that's a really important one, because there's loads of small businesses who are desperate to try and make sure they keep taking money because their customers want to pay them money, but they need to do something with it. And Strood, I think, is a good example, and Rochester, actually, where we've just seen the banking heart ripped out. So, again, Lauren's working hard. There's something called a banking hub. So working closely with the post office.
No, you're all right. You're just relax.
I'm getting too relaxed now. Hey.
It's fine. No, you're good.
Banking hub. So, and again, Neshaber, I think, is looking at similar for Gillingham. As well, they're the two. Chatham's actually well banked, if that's a phrase it is now. But it's so important for lots of different reasons. Business definitely, but actually individuals. I like to think I'm pretty good at tech. The one thing I am a Luddite on is phone banking or banking by app. Someone says to me, like, "Oh yeah, I'll pay for that for you. Just transfer me the money." I'm like, "Well, I'll probably go to the branch in Chatham to do that. That's it." They're like, "Blimey, just give me some cash." All right. So those things are important, because actually to make a community work, to actually have those things like a flourishing market, if that's something we're looking at, you need to have those facilities. The post offices do a reasonable job. I think they offer some of those facilities, but these banking hubs, which again, Lauren in particular for here has been, I'm saying here like you can see that if you're listening to this, I'm pointing to Strood. I think that's something which could add real value. So I'm hopeful we'll see some movement on that. High streets more generally, I mean, they are struggling across the country, there's no doubt of that. And we're all slightly to blame. No one listening to this has never bought something online. Not one of us.
Of course.
I'll always try and use small businesses, local businesses, wherever possible. But sometimes convenience rules. That's the reality. We've got to be honest about that.
It's the instant now, isn't it? You can have something or think of something the night before. You can Amazon it or whatever you do, and it can be there within 12 hours.
I completely agree. It's the sign of the times. Things change, but what are we going to do with what was there? That's the question.
And I think that's critical. And I think certainly, so Chatham is but is seen by many as the kind of city centre for Medway. So with the Pentagon Centre, that's a really good example. So the first floor of that, we are moving away from that being retail. And it will have two things up there: a healthy living centre, which is fantastic. Chatham in particular has got less than the national average provision for GP services, so it'll improve that. And we've got, of course, lots of new people living there. That's a good thing. And then we're also going to have a co-working space, which kind of post-COVID, we know that the existing co-working spaces are at capacity. There is a market there. It'll be a nice new facility. It'll be...
Is that like Dragons, that type of thing?
Exactly like Dragon.
Yeah,
I mean, Roland is brilliant. We love Roland.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. And yeah, they run a really good operation there. But there's room for more. There's absolutely room for more. We've got our own innovation centre up at... I always want to say Toys R Us.
I know. I always call it Toys R Us.
There you go.
Always.
There we go. So I'm kind of...
So you're on about near the airport, the Innovation Centre, which is a lovely place. I know a couple of businesses that are in there, and it's a beautiful place to work.
Yeah, so I'm hoping the site at the Pentagon, and we're working with a partner who's done this in other places, so they're not new to this rodeo. And I'm expecting the Pentagon offer to be somewhere between Roland's offer and the Innovation Centre offer. But I say, for me, the important message is this won't be taking business from either of them. They're both pretty much at capacity.
Absolutely.
There's more people saying, actually, we want to do some more working from home. We want to do some more co-working. We're just setting up. So we need a space. We need somewhere to do business that isn't our kitchen table. So I think that will be a success.
I don't think you would know Paul Clifford, would you, from Flourish?
I know the name, I think.
Flourish deal with the Pentagon stalls in the centre.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've had him on the show recently. That was quite informative. I'm just trying to think of people you might know. Richard Dawson. Do you know Richard Dawson?
Richard Dawson, yes.
Why would he know Richard Dawson?
Richard Dawson, he's a mate of mine, and he's crazy. But I'm sure he's Medway Council. He works for the Medway Council somewhere.
Right.
I think Richard Dawson used to work in our kind of social regeneration.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I think that's Richard.
I don't know if he's moved on.
He's not been at Medway for some time.
Oh, isn't he?
Right.
Richard Dawson. What was the name? Yeah.
But the guy from Flourish is doing a great job.
He is.
So some of those stores, I mean, the fruit and veg stall in the Pentagon, brilliant. There's a bakery there.
And I tend to use those stalls quite a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's really good.
I'm not, and I'm sure people will go, it's brilliant. The newest one that's open, I think, is a stall that just sells rubber ducks.
I've seen that one.
I don't... this might be me in proper mid-40s going on 90. I don't understand why a rubber duck stall would be successful. I hope it is. I hope they're doing well. Well, they've been there for a while. So.
Funny you should say that.
Our kids love ducks.
Our kids love rubber ducks. Obsessed. But we have recently, we can say this now because it's 2 months on.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
Yesterday, we planted 118 in Rachel's parents' house. Tiniest little ducks. 118
They probably only found about 80.
They're not going to find them all.
Yeah. They shouldn't have even said 118. You should have just let them go on for
a lot of ducks.
Well, that might be why they're doing well. Ned, so at time of recording, which is not when you're listening to this, unless you're in the room, it was my son's birthday this week. He was 6, and he went through a little phase of loving rubber ducks, and now he's
yeah, they've started making them everything now. It used to just be a yellow duck when we were growing up, didn't it? Now it's everything.
And now it's sort of like, I think my kids at my mum and dad's house have got something like 50 odd ducks, all from around the world. So there's one from New York, and they literally have them in the bath and play with them in the bath. And I'm thinking, when did ducks become so popular?
So there's a shop in Jackson.
There is. Yeah.
Anyway, the reason I mentioned Paul is because he usually has an empty stall for someone that wants to try out a business, which I think is a great stepping stone to get someone into a business and then even to progress to a shop in maybe the high street. Have we got any plans of Chatham High Street? Because it looks a little bit like a movie scene on some, where there's just the front of a building and no actual...
I know the building you're talking about. So it's had some investment. It needs more.
Yeah.
And I think part of this is around recognising, for Chatham and Gillingham in particular, and we talked about the 5 towns, but for Chatham and Gillingham in particular, it's kind of a 40-year journey. So you had 40 years ago, just over 40 years ago, 7,000 people a day going to work in one place, which was kind of equidistant between Chatham High Street and Gillingham High Street at the dockyard. Yeah. That stopped overnight. Yeah. Now we've got loads more SMEs than ever before, small and micro and mini businesses, and that's brilliant. We've got the universities here now, but actually the world of work has changed a bit. People are working from home more, etc., etc. And that's the backdrop to all high streets are struggling, but actually you had something 4 decades ago that's had such an impact that says, so same with pubs closing. People always go, why do so many pubs close? Well, pubs are closing because people are doing things in different ways. And actually, I would always argue, this is another podcast for another day, a good pub will never shut. A badly run pub will shut. A good pub will always stay open. They'll diversify and do stuff. But so Medway's had disproportionate amounts of pubs shut because we had so many to deal with having a dockyard.
Well, Medway, Gravesend, I think it held. Well, Gravesend held the world record for most pubs per square mile, I think.
Yeah, it was huge, and that kind of the last 4 decades, huge impact. Chatham had the second largest closing behind Oxford a few years back. So, and that's as a result of having, if you've got your kind of social and economic infrastructure for a massive employer, and then that massive employer goes, that infrastructure doesn't. So on the kind of 2nd of May 1984, everyone didn't go, right, see you later then.
Yeah.
It takes time, and time can sometimes be decades, and you'll have other stuff happening here. So it is about recognising that huge impact. But for me, I think it's about saying 2 things. Get people living near the town centres and high streets, Chatham in particular. So we're building hundreds of properties, and we are, as the council, actually, through our development company. And actually saying that retail will always be part of it, but actually the percentage of what is retail is likely to change. And we're seeing more hospitality, so restaurants, food and drink places, which are restaurants. I don't know why I said both of those. Leisure, and then some stuff like tech stuff as well, creative stuff. So all of that's going on. It needs support. It can't just happen by itself. It's not for government or council to make business happen, but we should be there to support, to encourage. And the final thing I'd say on this is we're looking carefully at something called a business improvement district. And we've seen examples across the country of where those work really well. So Maidstone has a bid, as they're called. And that's basically businesses democratically saying, we want this to happen.
Right.
We'll put some money in the pot. And it's then the council will have a voice on there, but it's run by the businesses. It's not run by us. So I said in the run up to last year's election, we will look at this. I want to win power to give power away. I want to empower, and we won't force it. So if the Chatham Town Centre Forum goes, actually, that's not for us, that's fine. But I want them to be empowered to have that conversation, whereas the previous administration said, we're never going to look at bids. That's not for us. So yeah, from that perspective, I think it's about trying to use all the tools we can, recognising high streets and town centres across the country. It's not a Medway issue, it's a national issue, but we've got to find our own unique solutions to that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think about all the centres in Medway. Chatham is the one that needs the most help, in my opinion. It's heartbreaking, actually, because my first independent train trip as a kid with my cousin was Chatham. And I used to be blown away by Chatham just because it wasn't Gravesend, and I'm used to going to Gravesend. And then, it was the first McDonald's in the area.
Yep.
Wake Up Mr. Appletree and all that.
What?
Do you know what I'm talking about, do you? You used to go to kids' parties.
McDonald's birthday
and kids'
parties,
parties used to have to make the apple tree, used to shout to say, "Wake up, Mr. Apple," just so the guy that's controlling the mic downstairs could hear you.
Yeah.
And start, I'm awake now, guys, And the Chatham used to be the place to go for the bowling and everything, because that was, and now when you look at it, it's the one that needs, in my opinion, the most help.
I mean, the bowling, I've mentioned Ned's birthday.
And they've done a great job, those bowling guys. With the little golf upstairs.
Love it. The best crazy golf I've ever played is in my ward.
And that's a business that knows how to run a bit. They know how to run a business there. They've changed with the times. Years ago, I was going to take up bowling. I never did. But those alleys are meant to be really good quality alleys down there.
But it was because I remember when it used to just be bowling. And then it went into a little disco, so everyone then came back again, didn't they? And they had a little disco there, and now they've gone again upstairs, so now they've developed that as well. But like you said, they're very much on trend as such, because everyone then, even at the end, because we've been there, haven't we, with the kids? Yeah. And at the end, you take a picture, you put it on the social media, and everything like that. So they are rolling with the times, and they are increasing their business. The
BBC test card, I love it. Playing golf on that, that's the last.
Yes, that's it.
No, but it's fantastic, and you're right. They have diversified. My sister, who doesn't live in Medway anymore, played bowling for Kent. So you go up to Kent level,
right.
county level. And yeah, Chatham bowling at that point was like the exemplar across the whole county.
That's right.
And it's had a dip and it's come back up. And I would say, we talked earlier on about Coslington Park Sports Centre, formerly known as Splashes. You know, if you're looking at that, comparable price for that as well. So actually, if you want a family afternoon out, you might go to Coslington Park. You might go to Chatham Bowling. Both of those would be great experiences.
So I'm going to ask a general question now. So what do you think, Medway as a whole, what do you think the biggest challenge you are facing at the moment is for Medway, and how do you feel you can resolve this, or what plans do you have to resolve this?
So there's two or three, if I'm allowed two or three.
No, absolutely.
So the resources, we haven't had a fair deal on resources, and I won't get into the reasons why. People will know my view on some of the reasons why. And as we're recording this, we're 1 week into a new government. I'm not expecting resources to be, dramatically increased necessarily, but what I'm expecting is a fairer deal, and also a deal which makes it easier for me to plan. So if you can imagine, running any business of any size, but being told you can only plan for the next financial year in real terms, most businesses will go, that's ludicrous. You're going to have a medium and long-term plan. I'm hopeful we'll go back to having multi-year settlements. So the government's saying to councils like Medway, actually, this is what you're going to receive for the next 3 years. So then you can go, okay, year one we can do that. We can make that change. That will save money in year 2 and 3. Because that's one of the things we need to increasingly look at, spend to save. So we're not spending for the sake of it. We're spending to A, improve service, and B, but also make it more efficient. So the best example of that, I would say, people will see over the next couple of years is how we deal with adult social care. We're going to take quite a radical approach to that. We're going to bring some of that in-house. We're going to disrupt the market. And again, my deputy leader, Theresa Murray, is fantastic on that. So getting a fair deal, I think, is important. There is something hugely about pride. Pride, what I've said to lots of people on the run-up to last year's election locally was, I want you, if I come back to you in 4 years' time, I want you to be able to say, I feel more proud to live here than I did 4 years ago. That's my test to me. And if people don't feel that, then they can sack me and get somebody else in that. I'm very, democracy says that. Because this is a great place, but it's not perfect, and there are some quite high profile things that we need to change. The most obvious, I think, being the focus on town centres, because they are the hearts of the community. But it's more than that. One of the things we've recently announced is something called a wall of shame. So if people are fly tipping or doing nuisance biking, we're going to put them on the website and go, who are these people? Help us prosecute them.
That happens quite a lot, doesn't it? Those bikers with no helmets on, just going mental.
And it's about the community working with us. And I said that we had a cabinet meeting earlier this week, and I said, figuratively, 99.9% of people in Medway play by the rules. My council's on your side. We want you to succeed. If you're in the 0.1%, we're coming for you. And I make no apology for that. I want people to play by the rules. And yes, times are tough, times are challenging. So that's a resource to try and, again, make sure people can play their part in saying, actually, these people are not playing by the rules. And we'll do all that we can, working with the police where appropriate, to improve that kind of pride in place. So it doesn't happen overnight. But for me, that's the big challenge. Medway is an incredible place full of 280,000 people, all of whom have got their own individual story, some of whom have got a really challenging set of circumstances. We've got that situation where you've got some of the wealthiest people in Kent and some of the most deprived. And that has impacts on health outcomes, education, employment, all of those things. It's my job to try and level those at the bottom up, but improve for everybody as well. An easy sentence to say, really challenging. And it's about recognising one of the people, if they hear me speak a lot, one of the things they hear me say is, I talk about one Medway. So we as a council have got a lot of responsibility in this, but we need everybody to help us. We've got to take a total place approach. The whole of Medway's got to get behind us to say, how do we make these changes? And that is, of course, with that difficult financial backdrop.
Absolutely. And it's so easy for people to have opinions and say, why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing this? You could put money into this. But at the end of the day, you have to stretch and you say, I think it was 5 point something million that you have for a yearly budget. That seems like a lot, but when you break it down, it's nothing.
Yeah, and we've had a 91% cut in our revenue support grant. So if you think about, if you had £100 and now you've got £9, how are you covering £100 worth of spending?
Exactly.
That's the challenge. And look, I think the majority of people get where we are. And yeah, that £580 million.
You wish.
I wish it was, blimey. £500 million a year. That's paying for, because Medway is a unitary authority, so all the rest of Kent has Kent and a local council. Medway has us.
Yeah.
So that means we've got to deal with adult social care, special educational needs, education more generally, highways, temporary accommodation and homelessness, tackling economic regeneration, tackling social regeneration, getting regeneration more generally happening with our building programs. All of that's happening. And that should get us to a point where people go, yeah, I'm proud to be here. And there'll be some people who will be cynical, some people who will be politically against me, and that's fine. That's democracy. That's okay. And I always say, as long as we can disagree agreeably, it goes back to the point you made earlier on about kind of personal attacks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's fine. I'm getting on with the job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to, for the majority of people that actually do support you and want to see a better Medway and be, like you said, be proud of
Proud to be
in
Medway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Rachel, you've managed to make your mic cover your face up yet again.
Oh, sorry,
in this
sorry.
podcast, so well done for that.
It's better than when you've got some of those microphones that make you look like you're on a moustache.
She's usually like this.
Oh, sorry.
As if by magic.
Anyway, so what was I going to mention? I was going to mention the police. I don't know what sort of involvement.
I'm a big fan of Sting. The other police. Sorry.
We can talk about that in a minute. I love the police. So they recently had a series, didn't they, on TV? The Medway Police. I can't remember what the name of that series was called.
Where the infamous Chatham Pocket came up. Let's not go. This is probably not appropriate.
I don't even know what that is.
No, I wish I hadn't raised that.
Okay, we can leave the Chatham. So did you get any feedback? Was you given any feedback from that? Was it a successful series? And do you have any involvement with the police regarding funding or any decisions they make?
I mean, we have something called the Community Safety Partnership. That's a statutory thing. So we have to, again, as an upper tier authority, we have to have that in place. Sorry, as a lower tier authority, because actually other places around Kent have that as well. So we have that in place with a number of partners, obviously the police, but also Kent Fire and Rescue, the Probation Service and others. And I have a good working relationship with our Police and Crime Commissioner. We're of different parties, but that's okay. We don't agree on everything, but that's okay. But
that's the same across parties, isn't it?
Yeah. You've got to take this. So he wants crime to come down in Medway. So do I. That's fine. That's a pretty good starting point. I mentioned earlier on the reshuffle I've had because people have had the audacity of getting promoted and getting elected to council, from council to government. So one of those individuals, Tris Osborne, was our Community Safety Partnership chair. That's now been handed over to Alex Patterson, who's got the kind of community safety and enforcement portfolio. So he'll do a great job. And that relationship between the council and the police is important. One of the things we said we would do before the end of our 4-year term is make sure wherever you are in Medway, you will have a named council officer. So rather than having to go to the generic council, you will know it's whoever it is for your area. And the police have said they will do the same. So actually, that's a really, if that all happens, and I'm hopeful it will, that will mean that peace of mind to say, actually, I'm not just dealing with the council and the police, I'm dealing with Simon and Rachel, whoever it might be. That gives people that additional confidence. Part of the challenge, if I'm honest, though, is sometimes the police are really good at getting someone in place. They're brilliant. You've got the relationships, the numbers on speed dial, and then they move. Then they move. More so than the council, actually. The council turnover on the whole is pretty low because people, I'm pleased to say, people generally quite enjoy working there. I'm not saying they don't enjoy working for Kent Police, but I think it's a strategy. I think they just move people around all the time. But yeah, the relationship is good. They've been under-resourced over the years. Again, I won't get into huge amounts of political diatribe on that, but they're doing as best a job that they can with the limited resources they have.
I know the new Prime Minister has mentioned getting a lot more officers on the beat. Am I right in saying
13,000.
Yeah. So I know we're a couple of months in, but we're not. We're only a week in. Can you see that happening? How long do you think it'll be before we start seeing a change like that? A few more police cars maybe, or something like that?
I'm hopeful. I mean, I think when you look at, and that's the same for us, but when you talk about pledges of that nature, bringing in more resource to do something, whether it's police or teachers or GP appointments, whatever it might be, there's by the nature of it, there's a pacing to it, because there aren't kind of 10,000 police officers shut in a cupboard.
Yeah.
Going,
Exactly.
I wish you could have been let out.
Exactly. There's training involved.
There'll be training involved. There'll be recruitment processes. So that's where I think it's right to say that will be something which, over the course of this Parliament, which of course is 5 years for central government, you'll see those improvements made. And actually, from a practical perspective, it's about, again, Medway pushing to say, these are some of our stats. Therefore, we think we should have this proportion.
Here and here.
You know, the starting point when you're looking across Kent is 16%. I always say we're the 16% of Kent that's not in Kent, although we technically are, of course. But from a kind of governance perspective, we are separate from Kent.
Yes, which I've just literally researched. We're not a part of Kent County Council, are we?
No.
So
we're the 16%
what's the history on that then?
So back in the late 90s, something called Medway's a unitary authority. So that, in simple terms, means you have one council for an area, a unified council. So back in the late 90s, the two predecessor councils, Gillingham Borough Council and Rochester upon Medway City Council, said we are going to look to come out of Kent.
County Council.
Went through the process. That was agreed. So we then had a shadow year where you had basically the Medway Council in waiting and the existing things in place. And then the two previous councils ceased to exist. And Kent County Council had a gap in the middle, which is where we are.
Right. So everything else in Kent is covered by Kent County Council.
So it's only, so if you look around, so other places people might know, and actually Kent and Medway, we're probably the best of the branding. Most people know Kent and Medway. In Sussex, they don't talk about Sussex and Brighton and Hove. They don't do that as much, but Brighton and Hove is the same. Over the estuary, on the other side of the estuary, Thurrock and Southend are unitary authorities. But they don't talk about Essex and Thurrock and. But Kent and Medway, for some reason, has just and people just know it. Lots of people don't know why and think, well, why is that the case? But
my view of it, and I've only just found this out, obviously. But my view of it, is that your issues and problems get diluted because it's such a vast sort of area. Maybe that's the way I look at it.
And that was the argument back in the 90s to say Medway, even though Medway Council wasn't a thing, Medway the place wasn't getting a fair deal. And that's right. It's right to say that there's been other conversations at different points. There was a conversation perhaps about an East Kent unitary. So I think it was going to be Canterbury, Dover, Folkestone and Thanet. The conversation started and then stopped quite quickly.
Right, okay.
I don't know the reasons why. So that's another podcast for someone down the other. But on a practical level, look, I get on very well with Roger Goff. Roger Goff is the leader of Kent County Council. Again, he and I wear different colour rosettes, but we're both fighting for our communities. I'm always very, very clear. I am Medway first. But actually, if we're doing something which means outcomes for people on the Isle of Sheppey or Thanet, who have probably got a lot in common with the people I represent in Chatham, as around those areas of deprivation, I want them to succeed as well. It's not a binary choice. It's not
them and us,
Medway wins, Kent loses. It's like, well, I want everyone to win.
So I imagine there's a little bit of overlap anyway, isn't there?
Probably the closest place that I would say is health. So actually, the health provision these days is Medway and Swale. So we have some of that, and actually, from a council perspective, we share some services with Gravesend or Gravesham.
Yeah.
But the boundary is very, very clear. 16% of Kent, not in Kent.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Learn something new every day.
There you go. And lots of places. So the fire service is a good example. So we have the Kent and Medway Fire Service and Fire Authority, which I sit on.
So how do people obviously have their voice heard? They come up to you and they say, or they email, or however they get in touch. And how do they then get their voices heard and their opinions heard? So it makes
and feedback.
Sit there and think, okay, how do we take this now and roll with this and see what process we can make to make this happen or to change?
Or do you, in theory, need a few people to be moaning about the same thing?
Moaning. Let's change the word moaning. Moaning is very negative.
Making constructive feedback or moaning. Both are acceptable. So look, one of the things I said is we would be the most transparent leadership of Medway Council, and I think we've done that. Mm-hmm. Listeners will have a view on that. So here's a few examples. We put out a video every week called 1 Minute Medway. Mm-hmm. I'm really proud. It was an idea which flowed actually from COVID. So during COVID, I used to do a Facebook Live every week to say, this is the latest news. These are the things happening in Medway. You know, if you need your prescriptions, this is where to go to. These are the new kind of community organisations that have set up. And loads of people would log in and watch it afterwards. Not as many as 100,000, obviously, but just saying. But a good amount. I'm just pointing at a sign for those of you are listening and not watching. But so I did that for the vast majority of lockdown. Loads of really positive feedback. And I thought, actually, this is a good thing to do. And then life gets in the way, particularly when you're leader of the opposition, as I was. So trying to keep that up, so that's fine. So, but the concept of saying, here's a weekly update of what's going on. And now some of those ran to 20 or 30 minutes because there was so much information. And actually, I had, within probably 8 weeks, I had people messaging me saying, can you mention this?
Yeah.
So it was well received. So when we won the council, I said, well, I want to bring forward a variation of this. I don't want to do a 30-minute broadcast. Nobody, people switching off after 6 seconds goes, shut up, beard. 1 Minute Medway was created. So people see that, they give feedback on that. We've increased the amount of things people can do at full council, so they can come and ask questions and ask us a follow-up question. Mm-hmm. The previous administration stopped people asking follow-up questions.
Right, okay.
Which we were like, no, they should be able to do that. They've got lots of opportunity. I've started a regular meeting with the leaders of the opposition groups as well. That never happened before. So again, the ability for them, if they've had residents or councillors raising concerns, raising it directly with me. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned earlier on, Medway Matters Live, question time opportunity for any member of the public to come along, speak to me and the chief executive directly to raise any issue. So we've done the first one of those. We were due to do the second one in Who. I'm pointing at Who for those who are not listening. But that, because of the general election period, it's been postponed. The next one will be in Chatham at the Dockyard. And so tickets will be available pretty soon when you're listening to this. So if you want to come and ask something, do that. But other ways as well, I have a monthly advice surgery as a ward councillor, but since becoming leader of the council, people from other areas have come along, other parts of Medway. People still email in. I don't drive, so I walk to Gun Wharf most days, although most people can't get into Gun Wharf at the moment. Yeah. Thanks 1970s builders. So, and my friend and dear friend, Teresa Murray, in my acceptance speech, made the point that whenever you're going down Chatham High Street, you need twice the time because everybody will want to have a conversation about something. And all of that seeps in. And I'll always try and be honest with people. So if people are saying, can I have free cheese on a Tuesday every week? No, because we haven't got enough budget for that. But people appreciate being heard. We will see, I'm sure, as time moves forward, more and more people taking up different opportunities. I'm present on some, but not all social media platforms. I'm rubbish at LinkedIn. I'm probably rubbish at LinkedIn. I probably will say I've been on this. And
there's so many, though, aren't there?
Yeah, Facebook and Twitter is where, or X is where I am, really. Other platforms are definitely available. I'm rubbish at Instagram. I used to love having MySpace. No one cares about that anymore.
MySpace.
Bring back MySpace.
Yeah, that's one thing.
And poking on. Bring back poking on Facebook.
Poking, you can't poke people anymore.
home.
Bring back Pony.
Yeah.
That's
So MySpace.
not official Labour Party policy.
MySpace was more of a music type thing.
It was.
And I know you've you know, anyone's just watching, you've got quite long hair. Are you a bit of a rocker?
I can feel my ponytail.
Are you a bit of a rocker?
So I don't want to use that terrible cliche of I've got an eclectic music taste, but my three of my last gigs I've been to were AC/DC, Green Day, and Barry Manilow.
Really?
So I think that's and the support and some this will be not for everybody. The support act for Barry Manilow was Jimmy Tarbuck, the comedian.
Really?
Just doing stand-up.
Nice. It's nice to see that he's still going. Actually, I thought he might have passed.
He was funny as well.
Lisa Tarbuck, his daughter's just as funny.
Yeah,
you listen to her on radio too. She's just as funny.
So yeah, I think I've got an eclectic mix.
So where was Barry Manilow then?
He was at the Palladium. He did, I think, 13 or 14 nights. Basically, I think he bought the Las Vegas show here. So he did 2 nights or a night at the new Co-op Live in Manchester.
Right,
It had opened by then, thankfully.
Yeah.
And I look forward to going to that at some point. Biggest arena in the UK, so that's a good space. And then, let's say, more than a dozen nights at the London Palladium.
The other thing is we're blessed with our location, aren't we? We can jump on the A2, we can get to the O2 in moments, half hour, 45 minutes. And if you leave just before the encore, you're home in 45 minutes.
Never leave. What? Simon, that is sinful. Never leave before the encore.
Well, when you've got a babysitter waiting for you.
No, that's true. Yeah, no, I get that.
So I think the last time we was there, was it Alanis Morissette? We were there last.
For you, yeah.
Was that the one that got postponed about 8 times?
Yes, that was the
and
one.
honestly, you could close your eyes and it was exactly the same as the album. Her voice, it was exactly the same. Amazing.
Very good. No, yeah, of course, Taylor Hawkins drummed on.
He did, and that was all, a tribute was up on the back of that. See, I'm in a band, so we play a lot of Foo Fighters things, so Medway's ideal for live. Medway and Maidstone, brilliant for live band stuff. So
you go to Amoeba Records in San Francisco. There's they've got all the different genres, jazz, pop, blah. There's a Medway category.
Really?
Yeah. The Medway scene, my goodness, it's pretty special. Like Billy Childish and all the stuff from the early 80s, really, really good. But hooray for live music, my goodness.
Yeah.
What do you play in the band?
Bass player.
That's a good thing. I played bass in one band, I was not very good.
Right.
I played guitar in a few other bands, I was slightly better. Sang in a couple, that was okay. But what's your favourite tune? What's your favourite tune to play?
Oh, favourite tune? I'm the same as you. I'm very all over the place.
Because the last gig that you did, you played in the
last gig that we did. We got a female singer, and she's a great performer. You know, in between songs as well. You know? So she's amazing. So we'll do things like we played an Alanis Morissette. We've played.
That you didn't play for 5 years before.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Come lockdown, she moved to Geneva with her boyfriend.
Oh, blimey.
That didn't work out. She come back, so we've only just started gigging again. So we've had a good 4 years off, and then we've been asked to do loads of festivals. So we've been doing festivals recently. And so we're diverse. We go from Walk Like an Egyptian to sort of Rage Against the Machine.
I love both those bands.
And we said, would you like a Christmas #1, everyone? They'll go, yeah. So we play Rage Against.
Brilliant. There's the power of social media right there. I love that.
So,
that sounds good. I need to come and see you.
But the kids, our kids love it, and they bring their friends, don't they? So it's
obviously,
like
when it's a beer fest, we're adapting the. You know,
other songs.
You can't say Egyptian. No. Yeah. So
flip you. I won't do what you.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's forget you or something like that. We say or fluff you. She says, doesn't she? Fluff you. I won't do what you tell me.
I know what bit's coming up. Am I covering the kids' ears up? Whatever she deals with it.
Yeah.
PG
versions. Yeah.
That's the great songs. Good choice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go into probably a really controversial topic.
Oh, Rachel.
Can I have a slurp first?
Yes.
I think
it's getting ready for it.
I think I need it. More caffeine.
Right, so improvement in public healthcare and the well-being for Medway. Do you have anything on the cards? Or because I actually work for the NHS, so I am in the healthcare industry. Do you have anything on the cards to improve this? Because I suppose a lot of your complaints or people moaning aside do come from that background about hospital waiting times and everything, that you must get that every day, mustn't you?
So let me start by saying the NHS is the most wonderful thing this country's ever created. Is it perfect? No.
Absolutely.
Does it need support now more than ever? Yes. Is a waiting list of nearly 8 million people too long? Substantially. So I mean, the new government will help. Absolutely, it will help. There is something around, we talked earlier on around the kind of, the variety of kind of situations people in Medway find themselves in. Lots of people who are far more intelligent than I will tell you that, health outcomes, 20% of health outcomes, and you can question the number a bit, but the concept is right. 20% of health outcomes is down to the health service, health professionals, medical intervention. 80% of health outcomes are down to everything else. Quality of air, quality of where you live, education, employment, mental health and well-being due to financial pressures, all of those things. As a council leader, generally, I've got lots of levers to deal with those 80% and less to deal with the 20%. Now, later on in the year, or actually probably by the time this is being broadcast by then, I'll be the chair of something called the Integrated Care Partnership. That is, going back to the point around working with Kent. So that is a tripartite organisation, Kent County Council, Medway Council, and the Integrated Care Board, the ICB. Lots of acronyms, so apologies for that. And that's about saying, actually, how do we improve those outcomes? So I'll be taking that opportunity to push, I think, on trying to close that gap, close those health inequalities. Sometimes individual service isn't good enough, and I think we should always learn from that. Apologise when it's appropriate, definitely. We should be sorry. Sorry if the system's not working well enough for people, whether that is the NHS, whether that's the council, whether that's the voluntary sector. The voluntary sector play a key role now. But the basic concept of healthcare, free at the point of need, I think we shouldn't ever step away from that. I think that's the right thing. I think there's a big conversation about social care. That's the other element to this. Because actually there's been several attempts. And again, sometimes as a politician, I get frustrated at politics. So Andy Burnham came up with a good set of plans. That was called a death tax. Theresa May had a reasonable set of plans. That was called a dementia tax. We need to find a solution, because actually the social care pressures, not just for the individuals, but for the system as a whole, they need some radical change. And we need a kind of national conversation about this to say, okay, and some of them become political cliches. People are living longer. That is a good thing. That is a good thing. Of course it is. But that comes with a load of complications. And some of those complications are quite expensive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do we deal with that? How do you make sure that you have a fair system to make sure that those who have got the broadest shoulders, I think, can carry a little more burden in looking at that. I think that's not unreasonable. But you make sure that everyone's got a level of provision which is suitable for their specific needs. And by the nature of, say my son's 6, so people in his class, the stat is, there we go, there's the other bit. The stat in his class is 1 in 3 of those kids will live to 100. 1 in 3.
Yeah.
But actually, because of where his school is, I suspect that stat is substantially less than that, because he lives in part of the area where the health outcomes at the moment are the 10 years lower.
Yeah.
So, and particularly for men are rubbish at health generally. There's another conversation there. So I think there's got to be some national stuff. Definitely, there needs to be, again, that cross-party approach. This solution will take more than probably 1 or 2 parliaments to get fully up and running.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm hopeful, and to say, with people like Theresa Murray, my deputy, who is at the heart of adult social care and public health, I think you've got a politician who cares but gets it. Yeah. And those two things are important together. You can look at the stats, you can take a kind of evidence-based approach, and that's important. But you've got to have a heart as well. Absolutely. And Theresa has both of those.
And I think a lot, like you said earlier, a lot of it is down to education as well. I think if you educate the people right, then they will know where to go. Like, for example, now they've introduced on the 111 for the mental health side of it, it isn't going to be directed to the police, because it used to be, didn't it? It used to go straight to the police, and then the police would have to deal with mental health issues. Now it's going to this direct service, so then it frees up NHS waiting times, frees up the police as well. So they're not combining. So it goes to this one centre, and then they're dealing with it. So we've had to have training on all of that just to make sure everyone is aware. But it's educating people, because a lot of people wouldn't know that now, right? So it is about the education as well.
I think you're right. When you're changing stuff, that's right. And again, sorry to use a technical term, but Section 136, which is the kind of technical term around the police using powers because of mental health and public safety, that is a really sensitive one. I mean, the Met Police, I don't want to be a constant downer on the Met Police. Their kind of communication around that wasn't helpful and led to Kent Police going, well, we're not going to quite take the same approach.
Yes.
And I think actually there's a good example of the Kent Health team, the Kent Police team, actually, I think, coming up with a good set of communications, people understanding if people are vulnerable, they're going to get support. It just might be through a different route than it was 2, 3, 4, 5 months ago. And actually, people post-pandemic are struggling. There's a mental health, I don't want to use the crisis because that's got different connotations, but we are struggling as a society in all sorts of ways post-COVID, whether it's long COVID, people have still got concerns about various aspects of it. The impact on young people. So again, if someone's 6, a third of their life, they were told to stay indoors.
Absolutely.
Don't do all the things you expect to do when you're 2 and 3 years old. All sorts of challenges. So I think, and COVID is still here, actually, as we're recording this, several of my friends across local government across the country have tested positive for COVID recently. So there's definitely, it feels as if anecdotally at least, there's a spike. So again, we just need to be cognizant of that, think about those public health messages that we had before. But yeah, these are challenging things. And I think the one of the challenges has always been that politicians, most politicians, not all, are just thinking about the next election. So if and we're doing things, so the Care for Medway thing, that's definitely not going to be finished completely by 2027, but we're going to make progress on it because it's the right thing to do.
That's amazing.
Okay. Moving on to mental health, I always connect mental health and being homeless as one thing, because I feel, if you've got the right frame of mind, you'll be able to get help to not be homeless. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, you really are.
Yeah. We drive. My son plays cricket. My daughter plays cricket as well for Sherwood.
Yep.
So we always drive up. I'm terrible with roads rage. I don't know where that road is, but there's a homeless guy that's on a bench there. And he has the same bench every time. And my son, he's 8. He's asking. I said, yeah, he's a homeless guy. I said, we can get him something if you want. I want to get him something. Dad, will you get him a hotel? Yeah, he's really concerned about this guy. When we went to cricket, I said to him on the way back, we'll stop at a store, get him, because rather than give money, I'd rather give him food and drink, and we'll stop and get him something. So he chose everything, bottle of lemonade and, things like that. We came back, and for the first time in, I don't know how many times we've passed, gone to cricket, this guy has been on this bench and he's not there. Right?
So your son's got a bottle of lemonade.
So we've got a load of stuff. But, I talk to homeless people all the time and, offer them food and drink. You always buy them sandwiches and stuff, don't you? But is there some detail we can give them, somewhere we can tell them to go to get help?
Yeah. So yes, and my goodness, what a compassionate 8-year-old. And actually,
it's on his mind all the time. It's really sweet.
We had, I'll come back to the substantive issue in a moment, but let me just pick this one up. So we had the Pride in Medway Awards last year, which I've had the privilege.
That's how you met Kelly, is that right? Milano.
Kelly and I have known each other for a number of years.
Okay.
But I have certainly seen her, rightfully she's been nominated multiple times. Both her and Club Awesome, who are amazing. We love them. Again, people doing so. Nobody chooses that they want to set up Club Awesome. It's nobody forces people to do that. They choose proactively, and that's Medway is the better for having Kelly Milano here, 100%.
Yeah, well, we have her now as. We obviously don't charge her, but she's on as one of the sponsors now. We just keep Club Awesome going on here for her.
Excellent. Fingers crossed they're one of them. Who knows? Yeah. But I'm sure they have or they haven't. Delete is appropriate. But this year's Pride in Medway Awards, I had the privilege of presenting the Young Heroes Award. And in my kind of opening remarks said, I want you to get out your phone, and we can try this now. Get out your phone, and whatever social media platform you're on, just put Medway has 63,000 amazing young people, and just send that and see what people say. Because it starts a conversation. Because again, going back to the again, I love the Medway Messenger, but going back to papers, local, regional, national, I don't ever remember the front page that said Medway's got 63,000 amazing young people, but we have, because that compassion of your son is shown in so many different ways by so many different young people. And I think we just think about the tiny minority, many of whom have ended up in difficult situations, not necessarily of their own making. So I think we should always recognise that, and that's an important thing. So your son is definitely one of those 63,000 amazing Medway young people. On the substantive issue of homelessness generally, look, this is an incredibly difficult one. I think we've done a good job and are doing a better job of trying to make some progress on this, both around street homelessness, but also sofa surfing. We don't see people sofa surfing by the nature of it. What I do know is if a kid is having to go from one home to another, that's going to disrupt their education. If they're in inadequate accommodation, or if, for whatever reason, if they're in rented accommodation, they're being, evicted. Sometimes because actually the landlord goes, the interest rate's gone up, I'm going to have to sell the property. Often not of their own making. The system is, and it's not a Medway thing, it's a national thing, is pretty bad at going, I know you've come to us, but actually until you've reached this point, there's nothing we can do to help. And that's frustrating, but that is the law, basically. On street homelessness, we have some amazing charities. So One Big Family, I'll give them a huge shout. We've got Gillingham Street Angels, who do great work.
Medway Street Angels as well.
Medway Street Angels as well. It's a bit like the People's Front of Judea and the Judean People's Front. Both doing amazing work. People like Second Chance Charity. And they've all got they're all helping people. And of course, Medway Food Bank, all doing great stuff, but have got a slightly different model. So Second Chance Charity, compared to, say, Gillingham Street Angels. Gillingham Street Angels is effectively open house. If you want help, come and grab it. It's literally grab it in some cases, absolutely fine. Second Chance is for those who are nearing the point of crisis, but haven't reached there yet. And actually, they take a different approach. And again, the Trussell Trust Food Bank, Medway Food Bank, very structured and organised, vouchers, assist, and again, in many cases, trying to assist people having to come back for further help. So there is a lot of help out there. I think we do a good job working collaboratively between the council and those organisations. Some have taken longer than others to kind of recognise that bureaucracy and policies and process are important, because people just want to help. People's instinct is, someone's in trouble, I want to go and get them a sandwich and a bottle of lemonade. That's a natural human instinct to say, I want to help my fellow human being. And then finally, on the housing element of it, we don't have enough housing stock. We are making progress. So I've mentioned the other two MPs, Nashaba Khan, our third new MP, before she left her cabinet role, was in charge of housing and property. She's gone, right, we're going to buy 150 temporary accommodation properties for the council. And that does two things. Firstly, it means the quality is guaranteed. We're not giving it to a landlord who perhaps we don't have complete faith in, but because there's nobody else, we have to use them. And secondly, it means that the money we're paying to a private landlord to house temporary accommodation is coming back to taxpayers, effectively. So, there's always more to be done. We saw during COVID with the Everybody In scheme that it can be done if the political will is there and the resources are made available.
Was that more hotels though, wasn't it, than anything?
So it was properly temporary. It wasn't permanent at all. But actually, we use that opportunity in Medway. The what is now the Ministry of Community Housing and Local Government, MHCLG, or was DLUC beforehand, said that Medway was an exemplar of using that scheme to move people on. So actually, the difficulty and tragedy of COVID in that case led to people being able to secure better, more permanent accommodation because they were brought into the system pretty quickly. even at that point, there were still some individuals who refused to engage.
Yeah, I imagine there were some good learnings from that, actually.
Oh, it really was. And COVID was a tragedy. We all lost people. I lost people like my election agent to COVID, terrible. But from those most difficult times for our community, our country, our planet, there was positive learning. The ability to go, actually, I've seen this box on my screen that says Teams. I've never clicked on
Zoom, yeah.
Zoom was a song by Fat Larry.
Wish you had Zoom shares, don't you?
Oh, yeah, they're doing away.
Yeah.
So yeah, even in those most difficult times, you take the positives. And I think both Medway, but the country as a whole, I think really did take positives from those really, really challenging times.
And I think it's adapted the way we approach work as well now, don't you? Because I think there's, in the last 4 years, let alone anything else, that has just shaped how we work and a new era of how we work, because everyone can work from home. You have the flexibility to work from home now. Everyone can somehow get communication from home to somewhere else as well.
I think there used to be a stigma about working from home, didn't they? Because companies used to think working from home, you wasn't actually doing any work, but it worked, didn't it? And a lot of them have stuck with it. A lot of them are stuck with it.
I think so. So having, I will have a political dig here. Jacob Rees-Mogg going around one of the government departments putting post-it notes on, going, "Where are you?" I mean, who benefited from that? So I've got two concerns. I'm absolutely fundamentally supportive of working from home and flexible working. They are good things. All employers should do it wherever they can. Medway Council certainly does that, and I would want more. My two concerns are, it is a two-tier system. So if you are stacking the shelves in Aldi, you can't work from home.
Of course.
If you're picking up the bins for Medway North, you can't work from home. So I think and it's not just about, it's about all of us going, for those jobs where working from home, just, if you're a surgeon, you can't do surgery from home. So it's different types of jobs. How do we ensure that everybody benefits from better flexibility? Question mark. And it's a difficult question.
Oh, yeah.
But it's one I think we as a country need to think about, to go, actually, if you're doing those, both of those, in fact, all three of those jobs were key workers during the COVID crisis. We applauded people rightfully. How do we ensure they're getting a fair deal? My concern is the flip side, actually, of what you said, Simon, is that there are, I hold my hands up. I'm absolutely guilty of this as well. So I very purposely don't have my council emails on my phone. I don't do that on purpose. But I have my laptop. I'm worried there are too many people who are employed to work 37 hours a week.
I completely agree.
And they're just logging on. Oh, I've just heard the ping. I'll just have a look at that. It's like, we're not,
not getting paid for those extra hours.
You're not getting paid for that. And look, I am a trade unionist. I'm someone who believes in a fair deal for a fair day's work.
Yeah.
And people, flexibility is fine. My instinct is that there will always be, probably out of 100 people working from home, probably one who is playing the system, but probably 10 or 15
who
are doing 5, 10, 15 hours late at night, over the weekend. And that's fine occasionally. If they've got a deadline, perfectly fine. They're doing that every day or every week.
It'll become expected eventually, which is the sad thing.
Well, and so I do, and I think some other countries have taken a more robust stance against this. I think France have done some good employment legislation to say, you've got the right as a worker to go, I've done my hours. Thank you very much. I'm working from home because that works for me. And the other bit is just around not having it as an expectation. So I know there were people who really struggle with working from home because their job contract doesn't say you've got to have an office. And actually, their one-bedroom flat is a challenge to live in at the best of times.
Let them
trying
work.
to do. So I'm a big supporter of it. I think it's a good thing. It's flexible working. I would always argue for positively, but we've just got to recognise the consequences and recognise there are people which that can never be possible for. And how do we give them an equal, not the same, but an equity of flexible working? How do we do that? And it'll be different for different jobs. But and look, again, one of those things which, I think you're right. The attitude towards flexible working by many pre-COVID was, you're slacking. It's like, I know that's not true. I know that's always not been the case.
Yeah, from a personal point of view, I try and mix it up a bit. I do a little bit at home. I'll go to a local cafe because then I feel like I'm supporting the community by sitting in there buying coffees all day while editing, that sort of thing. Yeah.
But it's as you were saying, it's that, how do you deal with people that can't work from home and give them the same, not benefits, but the same, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, the same
flexibility.
Yeah, because you can't say to someone, you can work from home 5 days a week, but because you work in others, you have to come in every
Unfortunately,
day.
that's the job, isn't it? If you're stacking shelves, you're stacking shelves.
Then you need something to say, okay, I understand you've got to be in work, but you can have this as a reward, or you can have this as...
But let's just go with like a stacking shelf job. Mm-hmm. That's not really a job where they're going to be receiving emails all the time.
No, I understand.
Do you know what I mean? They're going to be stacking jobs. At time's over, they go home. But stacking jobs, stacking shelves.
Stacking jobs. 50 jobs.
Stacking shelves.
But it's the flip side as well, isn't it? Because the surgeon who's carrying out heart surgery, they can't work from home either.
Yeah.
But the differential between those two is that the surgeon's probably got a fairly flexible diary anyway.
Yes, yeah.
Where so it's about, I think, Rachel, you're right. It's about trying to say, well, what can a good employer? Because not all employers are good employers. I want them to be. I want people to work in Medway to work for good employers. How can they give other flexibility? So that might be around the ability to book leave at quicker notice. Some places you've got to give a week's notice. You might say, actually, you can give us 24 hours notice. So therefore, if you need that flexibility, in the same way, if you're working from home, I suspect there are occasions where 15 years ago, I've got something being delivered, therefore I probably need to book a day's annual leave. That's now not happening. So how do we try and those are the kind of, and it'll be different for different jobs and different employers. But I want there to be the benefit of the world of flexible working for even those who can't have direct flexible working in the same way if you're on an office-based job or quite a lot of creative roles. Not again, editing a video can be done at any time. Performing on the stage can't.
Yeah. Exactly.
So how do you square that circle? It's a tough one, but I think getting away from people working from home are not really working. It's a tiny minority of people who said that, but sometimes quite regrettably, sometimes quite influential people. Yeah.
But you know what it's like?
Quiet, I think.
You can have 9 people doing fine. You get one negative thing happen. The negative thing just outweighs. Always outweighs.
Yes, that's true.
I try and tell people, when you've had a journey and you stop at every red light and every traffic light's defeating you, try and remember all the times when you've managed to just go all the way through.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Because you don't remember them. You only remember the ones that stopped you on a journey every time.
Always when you're late as well.
Always.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
People think I've got the special button as council leader. Yeah, red lights. That's not true, by the way. That is not true.
I love the way people feel that flashing them's going to work.
Yeah.
Have you heard that? They've flashed it. Do you do that, right?
No,
it does not work.
It's only on the temporary road.
That doesn't work either.
I don't know. I'll show you next time.
Well, she's flashing when she shouldn't be, isn't she? And not in a good way, Vince.
Follow the rules. Follow the rules.
Okay, so I think my last question is, what is your vision or your preferred vision of Medway, let's say in the next decade? Where would you like it to go?
So this is out of all of the conversation, this is going to be the worst element of we're recording today and when it's broadcast. So this week we've just agreed that next week we will start our consultation on the Medway local plan, Medway 2041. By the time this is published and put out there, that consultation is probably finished.
Oh, right.
So but that's fine. Lots of people, you won't live in Medway and be able to miss. We're doing that 8-week consultation. So for me, it's about saying I want a situation where people feel proud to live here. I want to get away from that situation of people in their 20s and 30s living in their parents' house in their old bedroom. We need to get away from that as a society, and Medway's my responsibility. I want people to enjoy green spaces, to go out and enjoy those green spaces that they do, and have new green spaces to enjoy. Be part of the creative culture that we have here in Medway, from beating the retreat to calling the midwife to Chatham's Carnival to the Dickens Festival and everything else. So I want people to have fun. You're allowed to have fun in life. We talk a lot about work and housing and health and education. Those things are important. Having fun, enjoying life, it's absolutely essential. So I think for me, it's about saying we get a plan in place that says by 2041 all these things are happening. And again, goes back to that point of pride. Do you feel proud to live here? Recognizing it's never going to be perfect. Medway will never be perfect, but it will be better. It's great, but we can make it even better. And for me, that's why the plan's important, not because it's the council plan particularly, but because hundreds of people will have their saying, actually, for me, this is really important. So, I'm hopeful by the time people are listening to this and watching this, they will go, I had my say on that plan. And that will be part of what takes us forward. Will there be every page of the plan that people will like? No.
Not at all.
I've said this elsewhere, and people go, well, what do you mean? But there will not be a local plan in the country anywhere where everybody loves every single page. There'll be parts of the local plan that I would rather not be there. There's some development in Capson Valley that's been agreed because we didn't have a local plan that was in date. So I wish that wasn't there, but it will be, and that will be part of the plan. So that is literally the plan for Medway.
Brilliant.
For the next 15 years. And I hope I'm here for a big chunk of that as leader of the council. That'll be up to the people of Medway to decide ultimately, but I'm pleased we're starting that journey because it's 2 decades out of date. Our last plan was 2003.
Wow.
We need a new plan.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you are very approachable, and it seems like you absolutely love your job. So thank you.
Thank you.
We do have one more question.
Do we? Oh,
Yes.
Oh, song, pick a song.
Right.
So we've decided now to have a Spotify playlist for guests. So they just give us one song that means a lot to them. But this Spotify playlist is unfindable. We even forgot what we called it.
No, you did.
But I've managed to put a link now on the description, on our YouTube description for this video. There'll be a Spotify link. And basically choose one song.
One song. Oh, blimey.
It can be anything.
So
you can't touch me. I'm a part of the union. Something.
No, well, there you go. No, so I don't want to. I'm gonna pick this one. This is a sad reason, but it's a great reason. So I'm gonna pick Waterloo Sunset by the Kinks.
Oh right, yeah.
For 2 reasons. One, it's a song about a river, and we've got a great river here in Medway. And 2, sadly, it was played at my mum's funeral. So it means a lot, and it's a beautiful song. If you're doing the Spotify playlist, the version with Ray Davis and the choir.
Yeah, write it down, H.
Yeah, that's beautiful. But that's always hard. The Desert Island disc type questions are always hard.
I love so much. It's too hard for me. So I just went for the first dance, and we did it sort of tongue in cheek. We did this year's. I've been married once before, so we did this year's Love. It starts to the better last, doesn't it?
What was your song?
Mine was Rihanna. Wasn't it?
Oh, because Rude Boy. Come on, Rude Boy. Every time, if I just sing that to her, she'll start.
I can't not dance. I can't not dance.
It's like muscle.
It's one of those ones. So she's just done it for a laugh as well. Yeah.
But we've had we had random stuff as well. Like we've had a few wedding guests on that have picked first dances. Then we had a wedding guest who brought a nan in a few weeks ago, and Nan picked a song, didn't she? So
brilliant.
I love that.
Thank you so much.
Let's wrap it up.
Thank you
really,
so much.
really pleasure having you. So just wrapping it up, right? There's a lot of people around the world that might want to come to Rochester. You never know. There's not many places Rochester and Medway, but I'm going to talk about Rochester at the moment because there's not many places that you can go to where you're literally in a book of Charles Dickens. You can walk up a road. There's not many places where you can drive past a castle and literally touch that castle as you're driving past it, and it's 1,000 years old.
Tilly's at the cathedral today. She's doing Founders Day. So.
And it's a beautiful river coming in as well, and we love it.
I actually think Medway has amazing green spaces, and it's so historical as well, and people forget that. I think living here,
beautiful.
You take it for granted.
You do.
Yeah, I think
you do. It's a beautiful place. Yeah,
I love it.
I love it. I'm proud to be Medway, and thanks so much for having me on. I know politicians are kind of, oh god, we're going to get him on. He's going to blather on for an hour and a half.
No,
it's been great fun. Thank you both for having me on.
No problem. We think it's valuable to you guys because people just see you as a politician, just see you as a target to hit. And it was the same with Kelly, and Kelly was just as lovely. Honestly, you're both lovely people, away from the politics and everything. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Cheers.
Cool.
We're done. This podcast has been brought to you by Snugdubs Camper Van Hire.
Roam the world, park anywhere.
That's snugdubs.co.uk.